1 life, 3 maps, and just 24 hours. This DayZ console adventure was like none other. What can a solo survivor do in such a restricted amount of time? But what you're about to find out is quite a lot. From hidden bases to brutal firefights, this story only grows more intense as time goes on. My main goal was to survive the full 24 hours, 8 hours on each map, but I also set myself some other goals: raid a base, engage in some PvP, hit at least 1 toxic zone, and investigate the bunker of both Livonia and Sakhal. But I couldn't think that far ahead yet. I had to give myself a solid start from the coast. My first inland hotspot to hit would be Chernarus. If I survived there, I would head west following the train tracks, make my way north through Moschino, and ultimately make my way to DayZ. And that's just assuming if I can survive for that long. One thing that'll be extremely important this early on was storage, but I thought nails, even though I wanted to build a base for Sakhal, would be alright to carry the whole way through the journey, as it only took up 1 slot. A hidden base at the dam. I didn't have the resources to raid this yet, but I kept the location in the back of my head for later. There wasn't much for me at the hunting camp, so my next stop was Moschino military tents. Just as I was about to loot my next hunting camp, I saw the distant smoke of a helicopter crash. I ran back to the camp because I was still desperate to find a scope for my blaze, as well as some 308 rounds. And I was indeed lucky enough to find a scope, in perfect condition. A whole bunch of drop loot on the floor. Someone had been here recently. I was definitely happy to find more explosives though, as this meant I was coming closer I'd be able to raid that base. Such a close call, but the reward was great. And now I had plenty of food to help me carry on my journey, as well as a DMR. Plus, I already had a marksman scope which I picked up from Tricresta, so I was good to go. Now by this point, I was halfway through Chernarus, 4.5 hours in. But the plan had took a little bit of a diversion. Instead of continuing north, I was going to head back down to the dam and try raid that base of all the ammunition and the explosive I'd been gathering. But first, one last quick pit stop at Moschino tents in search of ammo, and if I was lucky, an AK. And maybe I should have spent that day buying a scratch guard. I felt like it would be too risky doing this during the day, considering it's wide open and there's no cover, so I perched up for a little bit, waiting for the night to fall. I noticed last second that this base had already been blown into. Someone had beat me to it. I crawled inside to check the loot out, and then I would try the next door base to see if that had been opened. This base looked a little bit more promising. It was time to break in. I was in. Now time to say if this had all been worth it or not. Turns out this base was not that juiced out at all. I was walking away with a few extra mags, and that's just about it. But at least I ticked off one of the little side quests I was planning to do. So now I had to get out of here before all that noise drew more attention. And with the remaining time I had on Chernarus, I was going to search for some more NPC gear. So next up was Krasno Airfield. The weight and lack of stamina on my character now meant it was taking me longer to travel between areas, but I was nearly finished with this map. But clearly this map wasn't finished with me quite yet. After that embarrassing shot, the sneaky bugger managed to get away, but it didn't look like he was too geared, so I couldn't let it bother me too much. I just had to get to the airfield and get some NPC gear. I held back to overlook the airfield for a little bit because the last thing I needed right now was to get killed by a fresh spawn, but you cannot make up what happens next. The very place where I wanted to find some equipment to protect me from the gas got gassed. So now I was left with no choice but to move on. So I was going to make my last destination, Kamensk Military. One last gift before leaving the first map. This guy didn't have much, but an extra kill gave me some confidence to move on to Livonia. I should have took the shot when I had the chance, because this guy managed to slip away, and to be honest, I wasn't willing to go after him, because at this point I was dying from dehydration, so I decided to back off, and start the search for a convoy. Right now, I was just north of Nidek. I would head east in search of a convoy, hoping to find a punch card. And if I couldn't find one there, I'd head down south in a town between Geraldtown and Nadbo and search for another location there. I wasn't lucky enough to find a punch card this time, but I'll continue searching the convoy, and after that I wouldn't waste any time continuing my search. There really wasn't much for me here, so I had to head on south. Finally, a punch card. I was ready to hit the bunker. I also found an AKM, which I already had plenty of ammo for. I had finally arrived, but decided I want to wait till the night time in the hopes that there would be less chance of our survivors arriving. And whilst looking for a spot to hold up for the night, I found a bag. So clearly someone else had been here recently, and I was just growing more and more nervous as time went on. I held up in this bush until the night time arrived, and I patiently waited to make my move. It was time. The riskiest part of this was, I didn't have NVGs, so I was going to have to use a head torch, leaving me very vulnerable against players with night vision. I grabbed as much NBZ gear as I could find, because if I could survive this place, my next destination was Radinin Gas Zone. I was living to see another day. I had successfully visited the Livonia bunker, and now with my gathered NPC gear, all I needed next was a gas mask, and then I would head to Radinin and try get even more better weapons. It only took us 2 of these little bunkers before I managed to find myself a gas mask, and that meant I was ready and fully prepared to hit Radinin. I was gonna have to make this gas run as quick as possible, because since I only had a combat gas mask, I couldn't refill it. So once the durability was to 0, it was completely useless. The new backpack. That was the most valuable thing I managed to find so far. Not wanting to waste the durability of my gas mask, and I was going to move it all next to the tents and search that area. But then I stumbled across this. Now the only thing of use to me in here was the DMR magazines, and it's just a shame I didn't have a gas mask to use the filters. But I was happy to have loads more ammo for my DMR now. I was walking away practically empty-handed, but I couldn't be too disappointed because up to this point I've been pretty lucky, and by now there really wasn't much time left on Livonia. I'll be moving on to Sakhal soon. I want to spend the rest of my time on Livonia searching for building supplies ready for Sakhal, because as you know, my endgame goal would be to set up a home so I could safely finish this challenge. However, not before searching one more heli crash. I was heading south towards the hopefully quiet area of Dolnik. I thought that would be as good a place as any to end the Livonia segment of this adventure. So now, I just about survived 16 hours. 8 on Chernarus, 8 on Livonia, and I was about to begin the final 8 on Sakhal, where this challenge would take a harsh turn, and where one mistake would erase everything. I had too much to lose. The further I was making it, the more terrified I was becoming of dying. And at this point, surviving mattered more than fighting. Could I actually survive the full 24 hours, on top of completing all my little side goals? Well, this next chapter is where it all finishes. had already picked up a glow plug in Livonia, so that should save me some time to search for the rest of the building supplies. All I needed now was a shovel and metal wire, and then I could quickly hit the bunker before finally establishing myself a home in this industrial building in Nagovo. I wasn't careful enough, but this was a wake-up call. I was now left extremely vulnerable in the middle of a hotspot, and there was no chance of me getting away in my state. I was gonna have to hold out until my leg was recovered. Once I'd recovered, I decided to make my way into the nearby cave because I'd make a stash in the dense trees next to it, and maybe if I was lucky there would be a base there for me to raid. It looks like someone had already made a stash, so I could use these building tools as well as the crates and hide them away. I left all my tools, nails, and even some extra ammo behind, because next up, I was going to make my way to the bunker. On the way to the land bridge, I actually managed to find a car which was nearly in working condition. All it needed was a spark plug, which I had, and an extra tyre, but I will come back to that if it was still there after the bunker run. Considering the generator didn't need top of gas and there was a dropped SKS here, I can only assume someone had been here recently, so I didn't bother looting the other rooms. Now, it was time to evacuate this island and get my base sorted. It was time to search for a wheel for the 4x4 I found earlier. This would be perfect as I could use it to move the stash to the base location. I clearly didn't put enough water in the car, but it took me far enough. Now, I just need to find some metal wire. After collecting everything from the stash, I was now ready to build the base and have somewhere to make my last stand. Before finishing the base off, I decided to make the most of the night time and go fishing whilst in the cover of darkness. A millisecond, just like that, it was over. 23 hours into this challenge, I died. A stupid death. Definitely not the hero's ending I was expecting, but this is DayZ. Nothing is ever guaranteed. All it took was a millisecond to flip this challenge upside down. I should have kept my guard up. But there was no point being frustrated. I came a long way, and I had fun doing it. That's all that matters. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.